Okay, welcome back. I'm just going to go over this image now. I have got a sleeping baby with me, so if you wonder why I'm so quiet today and subdued, it's because of that. However, I wanted to get this in with you. This is the last video of the January series, so that's why I'm doing it for you today. And this is a shoot that when I post the images, everyone asked me to please add it to the videos. That and her daughter standing in the forest, so I picked this one out for you. And let's get started. It's just an autumn feel, except it's the dead leaves on the ground, so it's actually starting to be winter. So I'm going to minus the exposure, and I'm going to make that a fairly big minus so that I can bring all that detail back, minus 31. Now at the end I might raise that, but at the moment I just want it to be quite dark. Now I exposed for the skin tone, so that's okay, being able to lighten it, darken it like that. The temperature, I'm going to raise that to 6524, and the tint I want to raise that up a little bit as well, and I'm doing that to bring back the white balance. Now I shoot with an auto white balance. Those of you that shoot with an expo disc or pick your white balance, you might not need to raise the color so much. Now I'm going to reduce the highlights down to a comfortable minus 74, and the whites down minus 62. And also the blacks. Let's bring in some detail in the blacks. Minus 43. And I'm going to raise the vibrance and the saturation to make it a little bit saturated. And I'll bring that back on the skin tones using the hue saturation of the individual colours. So plus 19 and plus 21. Okay, I'm going to work with the reds and the oranges, and I might reduce the blues just in case as well. I find in a situation like this that I also want to make it a bit darker, so I'm going to halve the saturation and minus the saturation on both the saturation and luminance. So minus 18 on both saturation and luminance of the oranges. Minus 24 on the saturation of the reds. A little bit more on the luminance. Minus 53. And I'm just going to bring the blues down as well, just in case. Minus 51. Split toning is next. Now, when you pick out the colour, you can pick it out from the colour within, and sometimes you'll see me do that. But also picking the number out in the hue does the same thing. You'll see me do both sometimes. So in this situation I'm going to put it on 62. And then I'll actually change the hue just to show you what I mean. Sometimes I do this and you'll see me do this. I'll change it in both places. And I'll put that to 64. I'm going to reduce the saturation of that down. It seems a little bit yellow. Okay, saturation 18. Now I'm going to sharpen just a touch. And add a little bit of noise reduction as well. Noise reduction on 20. And highlight tone priority. I would like a vignette. So minus 36 on the amount. Take the midpoint. The roundness. Let's bring that right up. Okay. Now I'm going to add a radial filter. I want a ball of light at the top and a downward light going down across their faces. I'll put the ball of light at the top to begin with. So I'm going to put it on, press invert mask, and I've got the exposure and the yellow up, and I'm going to do another one. And this time I will make it thinner and longer. So this is reverse downward light. I should say another way of doing it. And I'm going to invert it. Take the yellow off. Reduce the exposure a little. Yeah, I think I will. Okay, so there they are. I'm going to reduce that again. Okay, so now I think I need to go back to the overall and just raise that exposure a little. So it ended up being on 83. And just grab an adjustment brush and lighten up Mum's face a little, and over in the bushes as well. Okay, so let's take this into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and the first thing that we're going to do is add a solid color, and I'm going to go for a brown feel, and we're going to put that on 36% opacity, and then I'm going to go and grab a big black brush and just mask that off on them. Fluffy brush, and I'll also mask it off on the downward light there. And there's a before and after, and a new solid color, and this time I'm going to go with a more brown again, just with a slightly yellow feel, and then I'm going to mask that off also, and I'm a little bit more careful this time. And another solid colour. This time I would like to go more red, and I'll move that to soft light, the blending mode, and I'm just going to move that to the top and reduce the opacity of that right down, and that's added some red in there. And again, I need to mask that off their skin. I don't need that red on their skin. And also on the green of the mushroom, I'd like to keep that green in. Okay. Now, I'm just masking off the shirt there. Keep the blue shirt. Now I need to do a gradient, and I'm going to make a vignette. And I'd like to make those brown. Oops. Okay. So I'm looking for a brown colour. And I'm going to make it radial. And reverse that. And press OK. And this reduce the opacity of that right down. And then I'm going to paint out the downward light. So I'll just grab a big brush and just do some stripes. Well, actually, it wasn't very big, it was just a 507 brush. And I'm just kind of doing some stripes as if it's the rays. And I'm going to go back and fix that tree in a minute. It's a quick way of doing rays. And I need to paint it back over the trees, but I'll do that in a minute. First of all, I want to have a look at the hue saturation. And I'm just going to saturate that up with a +18 saturation, and then mask that off their faces. And a little bit on the mushrooms, just too saturated for me. And a curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to make it a little darker and just brush that off. Now this is where I can fix this tree too a little. I want the tree to be there. There is a tree at the front. A bit of foreground. And right at the end I'll fix that though to make it more obvious. Here we go. So I'll just mask that through. And I'll put a little bit of light at the end on the other side. So I'm going to duplicate the layer at the bottom, the background layer. Grab all the layers, Control-Alt-E to merge the layers so I've got a working layer. Okay, just to see where I'm at. Duplicate that layer again. And I want to do an auto color to see what that looks like in Photoshop, for Photoshop. And I'll reduce the opacity of that down. And now I'm just going to mask that off on them a little as well. So I prefer that skin tone. Just making sure it's still on them. And I've put the opacity down to 6%. I'm grabbing all the layers again, Control-Alt-E to merge. And I'm going to run a portraiture now to soften their skin, but I'm also going to use portraiture to lighten them up. So I'm going to raise, I'll select the skin tones first, and that makes sure that it's got the skin tones. Raise the contrast to 3 and raise the brightness to +4, and actually that will add light on their faces and help with that downward light. And I'll press OK. Okay. So I'll do a before and after. There you go. And as you can see, it's actually put nice light falling on them. Okay, so now to fix the light down by the tree there. I think there should be some light falling on the ground there. So I'm just going to grab that lasso and raise the curves. Okay. Alright. So here's a before in Lightroom. And there's the after. And I hope you enjoyed that. Before and after.